All right, and we're back. So, having concluded the presentation on Metanym, the company, let's now turn our attention towards Metanym Platform. So, as you can see here, we have our public welcome page for Metanym, positioning ourselves as a qualitative portfolio risk manager, portfolio aware geopolitical and market risk briefs for institutional investors. Love that screenshot as well. Looks good. And we'll move right ahead here on this page down to the benefits and the features section. You can see here we have a standard list of marketing items and tools ready for deployment. We've got a white paper and one semi-fictional case study to illustrate the potential uses of Metanym, which we hope to replace by a very real case study sooner rather than later. We have our features and our benefits section, explaining very clearly who this product and platform is for, and most importantly, how it will benefit them in their day-to-day job. I think this is a very important thing for us to focus on, especially given the comparative novelty of the kind of product category that we are attempting to define here with this product. As I said before during the presentation demo for the investors, there is not at this moment in time a fully mature defined category of qualitative risk management. We aim, in fact, to be one of the products and platforms that defines that category, and it will be most important to identify and to make very clear and plain to both our investors as well as our ultimate clients what the benefit of this platform will be for them, day in, day out, on the job. Now, if we switch ahead here to the pricing tier, we're going to start with two pricing tiers, one aimed at 12,000 Canadian a month or 125,000 Canadian dollars a year, with a bit of a proration there. At current foreign exchange rates, this is roughly around 100,000 to 90,000 American dollars for the value of whatever that's worth in the near future. We intend to also offer an enterprise custom pricing level that will begin in the six-figure range and might very well escalate, hopefully quite rapidly, from there. But our initial pricing point will be at the 6 figures per client. This aligns with our target market of institutional investment and asset managers. Most importantly, the kind of persons out there who have enough assets at risk in enough geopolitically sensitive environments such that this pricing makes sense for the nature of the portfolio and the nature of the risks facing that client's portfolio. Now, the $10,000 a year pricing, that is going to be for what we call the Metanym Daily Brief. That will be a related lower ticket item that we intend should offer a fairly smooth transition on board to the Metanym platform. We intend that it should be utilized by the same class of institutional investors who will make up our ultimate client base for the platform itself. If there's a hesitation around committing 6 figures a year to a startup company, very understandable, perhaps even advisable. The Metanym Daily Brief, priced at $10,000 a year, offers our clients the opportunity of getting an easy onboard. Now, we offer a standard client authentication suite. We're going to make this integrable with the Microsoft Single Access SAML policy to enable a single sign-on across organizations. Once the client is signed on, we now have the standard portfolio dashboard. We can see here some basic performance attribution, description of funds, description of securities held by the portfolio company. To the left side, we have a variety of functions, including standard functions, dashboard and reporting. You can see to the left side, performance and account management, and some of our unique proprietary solutions, the Knowledge Graph and Simulation Lab, which I'm most excited to show you and which we will get to in just a minute. Now, if you turn your attention to the main executive dashboard here, you will see not only the portfolio information in terms of the expected gains and losses, valuation, changes, holdings. If you look at the right side of the dashboard, you will also see the most relevant news for that portfolio. This is one area where I'm getting to kind of pull the curtain a little back on what we do here. We run a 24/7, 365-day-a-year news demon that collects thousands of news articles all over the world 24/7 from literally hundreds of different news sources, going to be thousands of different news sources in the upcoming news year. Off of all of that information coming in, we screen and analyze for keywords and for risk factors that are most relevant to your portfolio and your risks. You can customize the news that you receive. You can indicate whether or not the news is relevant or irrelevant to you. And with our AI-powered software, you will get an adaptive news feed, custom tailored for your specific risk requirements. The newsfeed makes up a core component of what we call our qualitative risk intelligence. Information about qualitative risks has to come somewhere, and we maintain a 24/7 non-stop news surveillance operation. We are constantly monitoring to make sure that your portfolio is aware of the risks facing it. Turning to one of these standard functions now, you see here that we have our default reporting center. This is very important for institutional investors to show not only that they're achieving the right outcomes, but they are going about achieving those right outcomes in the right way. We have the ability of providing a variety of customized reporting across multiple jurisdictions. We can also do internal reporting for the sake of providing internal audit and validation services to confirm that the right work, especially with respect to GRC obligations, was done at the right time. So regardless of whatever your portfolio or investment needs are, we have the ability in place of conducting the right kind of reporting that integrates smoothly with the custom risk functions we talked about earlier. This is a very important thing, I think, to get the administration and to get the P's and Q's of portfolio management in order. So before we can move on to the fancy stuff, the knowledge graph, the simulation lab, we do want to assure you that in addition to all of these higher powered qualitative risk services, we also offer a standard array of portfolio risk services you would find in any default portfolio risk manager. So we're not just unique in standing out there, we do offer the standard complement of services that could be used during the day-to-day administration of your average prototypical institutional investment manager. I do think that's important to emphasize here. Now, on to some of the more interesting functions here. So far we've shown some fairly basic portfolio management, some newsfeed, which is kind of interesting, but anyone can do a newsfeed. Let's not kid ourselves about the relevance of that. Now we're getting on to some of our more unique selling propositions for Metanym Platform as a whole, and that is the knowledge graph. So as I said before in the investor presentation, our knowledge graph is essentially the operationalization, I should have tried saying that before, and commercialization of modern graph theory techniques. These same graph theory techniques were applied in practice by such blue chip firms as Google and Facebook. In the same way here that you can see a graph connecting various factors that relate to Apple and risks, we have in the green various investors who hold shares in Apple. In red, we have risks that relate to Apple. You can see there TSMC, the supply chain for Apple. If there is a risk politically in Taiwan, and geopolitically there might be one or two risks in that part of the world, that could affect Apple. That is a geopolitical, a qualitative risk worth knowing about. Now, this is a very, very small snapshot of what is doable with the knowledge graph. A double-edged side of what we have here, again, over 10 million nodes, over 100 million edges. There is not a practical way of visualizing all of the risk intelligence inside the knowledge graph. At the same time, while that makes it very challenging to work with, that makes it extremely powerful when you're able to drill down into the granular levels of understanding not only, for example, what are the specific risks facing Apple, what are the risks facing rare earths, critical mineral processors who ultimately feed into the supply chain that goes into a company like TSMC. Our knowledge graph, I genuinely think we've only begun to scratch the surface of what can be done in terms of applying this functionality to the problem of risk management. Facebook is a multi-billion-dollar company, Google is a multi-billion-dollar company, and graphs are at the core of what they do. I think graphs, if leveraged to this problem, could be a very powerful tool. Now, not just the graphs themselves. The graphs are useful, but they are a little bit, past looking. They only really kind of describe what we know has happened so far. The way that we build up our graphs, we collect information from news sources, we make various inferences. Based on this news source, we can probably infer that so-and-so happened, but we don't have a really effective way of inferring just based on the knowledge graph. And that is where our simulation module comes in. The simulation module, again, is extraordinary in terms of the promise that I think it offers, and I do believe with the right astute judgment in place, perhaps obtained from some of our prospective investors who have a decade or two of experience on us in the markets, this simulation engine could be the most powerful part of the platform. The way that we currently run the simulation is very straightforward. If we do a naive Bayesian option assumption about the future outcome of prices, either they will go up or they will go down. There are various factors that we plug and play into our price calculations. If there is a flood that hits Apple, we are assuming that impacts their price going down by 5%. It's a very naive simulation module right now. It has not yet attained its full power or full functionality. As it continues to grow, though, this simulation module is increasingly coming up with new conceptions of what the risk surface facing our clients might look like. It's very original in terms of generating different simulations and different ideas about what happens if a given ISIS-affiliated terrorist group in the West Sahel overthrows a mine that's responsible for critical infrastructure that feeds into TSMC and thereby affects Apple at the same time there's political unrest in Taiwan. The number of different possible futures it's able to simulate and come up with, this, we think, is going to be a very powerful component of the Metanym risk platform. Lastly, over here you can see a standard executive dashboard for performance allocation, so kind of returning us down a little bit from Mars or from the moon back down to Earth. So we do also provide a wide array of basic calculation, and this is what I would call more the quantitative calculation and quantitative risk associations of a given investment management software. So we're not claiming to be specialists in market risk, and we don't intend to invest too much of our capital in specializing in these areas, but there is definitely an understanding that we provide a comprehensive risk solution in place. That means not just providing those blue field solutions out there like the knowledge graph, like the simulations. It also means coming up with standard performance attribution, as you can see in front of you here. And lastly, we also offer a standard array of account management services. These are all very common for enterprise software. We've got data security standards in place per ISO 9000. We intend to integrate with a primarily Microsoft-based platform to offer single sign-on solutions. We've got a checklist of about a dozen or so enterprise features we need to add to make this truly robust at the higher levels. We have a technical advisor with quite a bit of a good experience there and a high degree of trust who would be delighted to introduce you to. Josh knows him on a very good basis, and that we think will enable the very good technical hardening of our platform in anticipation of the launch that we talked about in second quarter of 2026. So, just to recap and do a quick description of all the features that we've seen so far on the Metanym product demonstration. You have the portfolio management software. Upload your portfolio information, upload your securities. We have a library of over 10,000 securities that we currently provide coverage for, and that is expanding every single week. Once you've uploaded your portfolio, add your risks. Let us know what are the most material risks that keep you up at night. What can we do to provide you with the qualitative risk management services you need to be assured that your money, your investors' money, is safe? Once you do that, take the knowledge graph for a spin, try out our simulation module. You'll have access to all the standard portfolio management software. You'll have access to all the usual features. Once you've got your basic attribution in place, once you've got your basic workflow and reporting cycles, take a glimpse into the future and see what risks you might not even have considered might be relevant and might be most concerning and important to you and to your clients. This is the promise of the Metanym Risk